Welcome to Marketing Over Bourbon, where business brilliance meets bourbon culture. I'm your host, Sheila Butler of Butler Marketing Group. Today's guest is Rob Mauldin, a 21-year Disney veteran and a true leader in the experience industry. In this episode, Rob shares his view on creating memorable guest experiences, balancing tradition with innovation, and much more. So pour yourself a glass, relax, and join us as we toast to great ideas, actionable insights, and the art of building something remarkable. This is Marketing Over Bourbon. Hey, Rob, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Sheila. It's great to be here.
So cheers to
Cheers.
this. We are sipping Woodford today.
Woodford today, yes.
Right? So cheers and kungaloosh. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good.
That's the way to start an eatery.
Amen to that. All right. So let's talk Magic Makers first, right?
Mhm.
So Magic Makers helps businesses deliver world-class guest experiences.
Mhm.
What inspired you to co-found this company, and how does it reflect on your personal mission?
That's a great question. After 21 years at Disney and working through lots of transformations, what I learned about myself is I really love to solve complex business problems. I really like to work through situations that are really interesting to bring experiences to life. And what I also learned is in my leadership journey that as I moved from being a doer to a manager to a leader, that I like to transcend to that next level and to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. When my partner and I decided that we wanted to come up with a new way to do business and kind of target our own challenges in the world, we wanted to be able to bring all the lessons that we had learned through working on a very big stage with the Walt Disney Company to other businesses in the hospitality space.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So how many Magic Makers are there today? And combined, how many years experience within the Disney Company, would you say?
The number fluctuates because we add and some people transition into other roles, but today there's over 60 Magic Makers with over 1,000 years of cumulative Disney experience. So we have folks that were very long-term, decades and decades of experience working at Disney at all levels of the park. Over half of of the folks that are part of the Magic Makers group are former Disney executives, but everyone is an expert in their field and is a subject matter expert in what they do.
I love it. And so tell me about the breadth and depth of you call them studios, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
different consultants. So give us a flavor for what types of expertise are you bringing to businesses through Magic Makers?
It's a great question. And we get that all the time of what can Magic Makers do for you? And what we've tried to do is to curate a very large set of experts that can do every function needed to run an experience business. Everything from front of house to back of house, from administrative to creative. So we've got folks that can do every discipline that you would think of in a traditional experience-based business. Food and beverage, retail, branding, marketing, data analytics, consumer insights, employee insights, learning and development, training and culture. All of the areas that you would need to actually run an experience business, we have an expert that can actually do it, including industrial engineers and folks that can just work on process engineering.
Awesome. All right. So truth be told, I'm actually a Magic Maker, right? I'm working in the marketing, branding, loyalty studio, and also created the Women of Magic Makers. So do you see other specialties like working with female-owned businesses and so forth being the future part of Magic Makers as well?
I think so. It's like the Magic Makers is an interesting collective of resources, and we put together essentially tiger teams or small subunits inside of Magic Makers to attack problems and to attack engagement. So it could be, and we find ways to actually work with each other and to support each other. Yep. One of the things that we've done at Magic Makers is basically put the network and the matrix back together that we had being part of a very, very large entertainment company that had lots and lots of resources. So what we've done is we've tried to go out and curate those resources and create a structure where people can actually pull on the resources on an as-needed basis. Mm-hmm. So we see lots of smaller sub-teams that emerge through what we do.
Yeah, fantastic. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk about defining guest experiences, right? Really exceptional experiences. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that, and what do businesses often overlook when they're trying to create those exceptional experiences?
It's a very interesting question because it seems so simple, but it's actually pretty complicated. And when we speak to clients and companies that are bringing us the problems, we try to employ essentially a philosophy that we learned at Disney and that Disney has learned through other examples through the Harvard Business School and otherwise to apply what really makes a rich experience. And for a experience to go from good to great in our world, it is something that actually has a defined brand promise and a brand experience and has found the way to actually jump and transcend from that brand promise into operational excellence. And the way you do that and the way you find and create great customer kind of a relationship with your customer is through deep emotional connections.
Yep.
It's the ability to create an emotional connection. And when you can do that, you can go from good to great. What Disney has found and what research has found is if you can create an emotional connection with your guest, that it will significantly increase their intent to recommend and the intent to return. And so Disney focused on that. That has been inbred into what we do. And so we will bring that to customers and try to point that out to them, is that although it sounds so simple, it can be very, very complex, but it's really just breaking down what you're trying to do and being very, very intentional about what you're trying to deliver.
Yeah, you're speaking my language, because I do believe that branding and loyalty, the essential element within that, which is so difficult to define and execute, is that emotional connection, right? And to do it in a really authentic way.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. So, okay, Disney's influence on your career. So what do you think when you reflect back on photo imaging, Disney Cruise Line finance, et cetera, how does that shape your approach to guest experience as well as business strategy?
It's a great, I love that question because it is from where my background is in finance. It is a very technical degree and it's a very technical discipline. But what I've learned is that it's not always a technical solution to a problem. So the strategies are great on PowerPoint presentations, strategies are great in a boardroom, but it's only as good as you can actually deliver and execute against that strategy. And so to drive that kind of strategy forward, what I've learned is sometimes it's okay to break or bend a business model to reinvent or create a new business model. Yep. So sometimes it takes a little bit of courage to step out of the comfort zone. That's absolutely what was done with Disney Cruise Line. Disney Cruise Line created its own culture. It was, when it started, it's not Disney, it's not Cruise Line. It is a blended culture of Disney Cruise Line that created and developed a brand new segment in the cruise industry. The same thing as when we looked at the Disney photo imaging business. The very first thing that we did, we started listening to our guests and to our frontline cast members that were actually challenging the underlying basic business model. Why are we printing photos? Why are we not delivering photos in a digital manner, which is what guests were asking for? But to be able to chase that new business model, we had to literally break the business model to do that. Yeah. So that, from what I've learned, is to find the courage sometimes to actually figure out ways that you jump from strategy all the way to execution. But that is the trick. The trick is to get it off the page and out of the strategy deck and into the actual business. Yep.
I would add as well that I think it also takes an incredible amount of leadership courage to advocate for that within an organization that might not think that way, as well as help the team through that. Because that's tremendous change management.
Tremendous change management. And you have to have an atmosphere, an attitude, and a culture of failure. It's okay not everything you're going to choose is going to be the right choice. Yeah. So being able to have a bias for action, to be able to actually get things in the field quickly, listen intently, develop your listening posts so that if you need to retrench and retread and repivot into your strategy, that's okay. It's like I've learned many times it's okay to repivot your strategy and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. All right. So let's think about, because we're on this note around really like innovation and thinking, right? So how do you balance out innovation with and tradition, but really bring new ideas to businesses?
That's very difficult these days. So part of that is making sure that you can actually define, understand, and appreciate the heritage and tradition of the brand, the business, and what that is. Really understanding that ethos of what that tradition is so that you can pay respect to it, but not so much in a way that it's the way we've always done it. It's like and having the courage to challenge some of those notions to bring innovation, change, and new ways of thinking into the mix. So it's very difficult. In some cases, it's a little easy to say, yes, I want to make a change. What I've actually found is harder is to say, no, we're not going to make that change because it doesn't connect with our brand promise. It's not in line with our history and our heritage, or it's too much of a change. So it's completely appropriate to say no, or what may be even more appropriate, not yet. We need to go through a continual level of change to be able to get to a point where we can make those changes.
Yep, absolutely. So back in the day when I was at Disney, I want to say it's like mid to late 90s. I remember the phrase, you need to get on the bus. So think back to those times to where the change is coming and people are not prepared for it and they're really, really resisting against it. And at the top of the house, the leadership says, you're either on the bus or not on the bus.
And I believe I remember those days, and that happens in any large organization that's trying to drive significant change.
Right.
And there is a time for debate, and there is a time to get on the bus and support the decision is made. And there certainly is a point where, and the organization needs to create the space for that debate and for the ability to talk through the things that need to be talked through to make sure that people come along in the journey. But there's also moments when you just need to get on the bus and support the decision is made and to move forward. And it's like, this is the best decision that we can make with the information we have at hand, and we're going to move forward. And that's okay. And sometimes that you can course correct if needed, and you can do that. But that is it is more difficult if there are naysayers, especially in the leadership ranks, that are not on board or that are naysaying along the way. That actually creates more headwinds. And you if it's going to fail, it's going to fail, but allow it to fail quickly, allow it to fail fast so that you can actually retread if need be, or you can let the business grow and naturally transcend to a new level.
Yep. And do you think, just one last question on this topic, do you think that it's easier or harder or no different based upon the size of the company for that change?
I think it depends. It's like I have been a part of, and we've worked with companies that are small 30 and 40 person companies that are unclear on kind of what their brand promise are. They're unclear or have a non-defined culture, so that what they want to do from a strategy standpoint is clear, but having the underlying, the organization prepared to make that change makes it harder. We've also worked with very large companies, 30, 40,000 persons that have been extremely organized and extremely well aligned from a change management standpoint from top to bottom, where things are able to move very quickly because there's a high level of trust, there's a high level of transparency, and the culture for that change has actually been very, very well developed over time.
We're taking a quick bourbon break. So while glasses are refilled, let's talk about something as important as a good pour, your marketing. I'm the founder of Butler Marketing Group, and we help businesses, small, medium, and Fortune 500, navigate growth and transformation with marketing that's strategic, intentional, and built to leave a legacy. Whether you need branding, marketing strategy, loyalty, or a fractional chief marketing officer, we've got the perfect blend of services for your business. Contact Butler MG to get started. Now, back to the show. All right, so let's think about a transformational success story. All right, so what is your favorite story in terms of Magic Makers Group and a successful client engagement where you really transform the customer experience? And how can the people watching this today learn from that and apply that in their business?
Right. So one of the favorite stories that my partner and I like to tell is Because Magic Makers, for everybody that is part of Magic Makers, has worked at some point at Disney. So you would naturally assume that all of our clients are theme parks and attractions, and they work in the hospitality space. And that's certainly true to a large degree. We do a lot of business, and we do help a lot of clients and customers in that space. But we also do a lot of work in folks that we call hospitality adjacent, in industries like healthcare and government, both federal and state, online and contact centers, and just different ways where people are learning how to bring hospitality into their service businesses and into their experiences. One of the fun ones that we did was actually with a government subcontractor hired us as they were taking over a contract for a very large division of the U.S. government, actually military based. And they brought us in because they wanted an outside the government, hospitality focused, commercial, best in class industry benchmark to bring in to help them to do the service delivery that they were hired to do. So we worked directly with all levels of the organization, with the subcontractor, all levels of leadership. We worked directly with their client, with those a part of the federal government, to develop a cultural framework so that they could actually understand how to put in a kind of a culture and a air of hospitality in the service they delivered. The goal was to take those very transactional things that they did on a daily basis and help them and train them to turn those transactions into interactions, making those interactions into opportunities to create emotional connections. It was very, very foreign when we kicked off those initial conversations. Everybody was super excited about it. We were very proud about how it got delivered and rolled out, and we really think it actually changed the way that business was thought about from a service delivery.
That's incredible. I love the fact, actually, when you started to answer that question, you put fun and government in the same sentence. So cheers to that. Yep. In fact, I'm going to give you a break. I've sipped, but you have not. So I want to give you, right, exactly. So while you sip, I want to thank our show sponsor, D3 Brewing Company. So D3 Brewing Company, they are the makers of Binny's Brew, Retired Rides, and more. And I'm so incredibly grateful to have them as a sponsor for this show. So thank you, D3 Brewing. Cheers to you. And thank you for supporting the show. So with that, I will also...
Cheers.
Cheers and Kungaloosh, right? Drinks up. All right, so let's think about this C-suite, right? So what actionable advice do you have for CEOs? So think about... it's a business. They're trying to elevate their customer experience today. What's a practical element or a place for them to start to create more meaningful connections with their customers?
We're a big believer in a principle that's founded from the Harvard chain of excellence. And the way that chain is kind of described is to drive the intent to return and to drive the behavior for intent to return and intent to recommend. That is actually to focus on the guest experience. If you increase and you go from good to great in the guest experience, those two metrics will increase. What we actually teach and what we advocate is to make the customer experience get better, focused on your employee experience. Very, very specifically, focus on your leader experience. Your leaders are your consistency through line. They set and support your culture. They are the ones that actually are there living and breathing and creating an atmosphere of trust and comfort so that your especially your frontline employees and everybody that are doing the transactional business along the way, that they actually are confident that they can work and do all the tasks that they need to do to make the work happen, but they're allowed and they have the permission to go off task but be on purpose. The ability, and that's what I would coach and counsel CEOs and C-suite folks to be, is like, set that culture of innovation, set that culture of trust, be very, very explicit in your expectations. Make sure that your leaders understand what their standards are they need to live up to, how to make decisions, and then understand the behaviors that actually support those standards, and then give them the permission and get out of their way. Let them run the business. You can't be there every day when someone is making a decision as things are coming up inside the business. So focus on the culture, focus on your leaders. And that is the thing that we try to talk about, especially with C-suite folks, is to really set the foundation of the work.
Yeah, I think that's exceptional, especially around giving the leaders permission. And I think then also the leaders giving their frontline employees as well the permission, right? If I recall correctly, it was pretty early on in my entertainment career at Disney, and I was told by my leader, if you make a decision in favor of the guest, you will be supported, because you're not always going to have a leader right there to stop and ask.
True. It's like, and I every leader that has ever worked with, for, or around me knows that I have a good news fast, bad news faster rule. It's like, please do what you need to do to handle any guest situation or any business situations. But if you feel like it's going off the rails, or you feel like you need help, call quickly and let me know what's happening.
Yep.
Give me the opportunity as a leader to be there for you, to support you with resources, time, the financial resources, whatever it is. But don't hesitate. Go ahead and take the shot and see if you make it.
Yep.
But if something goes wrong, call for help, and then let myself or the team kind of come in and help you. So it's really it's really to have that bias for action, to really be there for the guest and be in favor of your customer.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so thinking about like looking forward and guest experiences, right? How do you see guest experience evolving in the next like 5-ish years, right? And what do businesses need to do to stay ahead of that?
This is super interesting, because you see tons of technology that's emerging that people are looking at for efficiency and productivity and to accelerate the businesses. AI and all of the technological tools that are out there to be leveraged and used as part of the business. Those are great. Actually, I'm a big user of those. I actually appreciate them. I think they're great accelerators into how you approach work. But I think that the customers are really looking for personalization. They're looking for transformation. They're looking for experiences to be focused on the next level. It's more than just a commodity or a service. It is transcending into a higher level of experience and into a transformation standpoint. And I think the way to do that is to stay connected to the people. And there's two populations we always focus on. One is your customer. Make sure that you're listening to them. Make sure you have listening posts, whether it's surveys or roundtables or walking around in your organization and understanding, and you see how customers are actually, they're consuming your experiences and your services. There's no better way to do that in speaking directly to your customer. The other one is often overlooked, but is actually very easy. It's your employees, especially your frontline employees. They're the ones that have those touch points with the guest. They usually one of your best listening posts of what are people asking for? What are we not doing correctly? What could we do better? What could we do faster? We as a business may make investments in things that the guests don't care about. That is like it could be technology for technology's sake. It could be a service for we needed to put something and make a change and check something off our to-do list so that we could say we made an evolution, where the customers say, I just need it to be simpler. I just need it to be faster. I want it to be like it was. That's okay. Listen to your customer, listen to your employees. They're the ones that will help you and guide you in where to make those choices.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I would love to have you back on another show, and we can talk more about technology and high tech and high touch, right? And how do you blend the two together? So I think there's some really, really great topics. So, okay, I've got a couple questions that I ask all my guests.
Okay.
So here they are. Okay, first one is, if Magic Makers were a bourbon, which one would they be and why?
Wow, that's a great question as well, because there's so many great choices.
So it's probably a blended whiskey. Is that what you're saying?
I'm gonna go Blanton Single Barrel.
Oh,
and because I think that is it is curated, it is consistent, it is done in a small batch. So it's done in its kind of targeted in a kind of a high quality way. So it's like that encapsulates what Magic Makers is. We're not trying to be everything to everyone, but we are very experienced. We deliver high quality work in a very, very focused, curated way.
I love it. Okay, excellent. Probably the best answer I've heard so far, which is amazing. I also love the fact that it's single barrel, meaning we all come from the same barrel, which I think is so true because that's part of the Magic Maker DNA.
That is absolutely it.
The fact that we all think very, very similarly from a Disney culture standpoint, regardless of what line of business we worked in at Disney, right?
Yes.
Okay, so speaking of Disney, if you could experience something at Disney for the first time all over again, what would you want that to be?
Wow, there's so many experiences to choose from. Well, so my family growing up, we were not Disney parks folks. I had never been to a Disney park before I got hired to work for the Disney company. I had watched Walt on Sunday night, and we would see Walt Disney World and we'd see pictures of Disney. And so I was very aware of it, but I had never been. So I didn't have the same kind of emotional connection to the parks and resorts. But I do have a deep connection to the cruise industry. So it was my first job out of college. I went and worked on a cruise ship. I met my wife. I met a lady from Iowa on a ship in Miami, going to the Bahamas every week. And so I have a deep kind of personal connection to the cruise industry. And I think the Disney Cruise Line product is arguably one of the strongest and most integrated experiences in the Disney portfolio. I would love to be able to kind of erase the slate and to go experience that first time as a guest and bring my family to really understand that entire experience. It is so well done, so well curated, and the storytelling is top notch.
Excellent. I would agree with that, especially. All right. So last question for you. And this is actually for a future guest.
Okay.
So what would you like me to ask a future guest on this show on your behalf?
Magic Makers and I personally, we're big believers in culture. So I would love to hear from other leaders and from other experts, how do they influence culture? What do they do to influence culture? What are the tips, tricks, and best practices that you have up your sleeve and kind of propagating a culture of excellence?
Love it. Okay. We will get the answer one day from I don't know who. We'll find it. Surprise coming. All right. So Rob, thank you very much for sharing your insights and perspective and your career journey with us today. From your time at Disney to your time with Magic Makers Group, it's clear that creating exceptional guest experiences and culture is so ingrained in the Magic Maker brand, as well as helping brands and companies really stay true to their core identity, right? Which obviously ties very well into marketing. And I think that those are universal keys for success, for sure. So I'd also like to thank D3 Brewing Company, makers of Benny's Brew and Retired Rides and more, for sponsoring our show. And for everyone watching, I hope you found this conversation as inspiring and as insightful as I did. Whether it's the power of innovation, balancing tradition with new ideas, or finding that one practical step to elevate your guest experience, there's so much more for you to take back to your business based upon this conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to it. To Marketing Over Bourbon, we bring you candid conversations with some of the most innovative minds in the business. And remember, the best ideas come when you take the moment to sip and savor. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.